aside from the physical challenge and things that you were doing, how did you go from essentially being in corporate, and what was that transition like from that to becoming an author?
It's a great question. I mean, from the corporate side of it, it's funny, and I'll try and give you the short version. I mean, like my family came from a slightly dodgy background. I think probably I know I sound very posh, but it's my dad's dad came from Birmingham, and yeah, he was part of a group of gentlemen that are today known as the Peaky Blinders. So he was like in that whole sort of like that real life community, and he was in he was a horse trader, and he dealt with the various gangs and everything else, and they were involved in the black market and all sorts of things, and that's where my dad's side of the family came from. And growing up, it was quite a chaotic upbringing for me. We have one of those sort of quite dodgy lifestyles where one month there was loads of money, and well, not loads of money. We weren't like in Rolls Royces or anything, but my parents would be like, right, we're going on a cruise, or it's holidays, and that, or going out for dinner every night and that sort of thing. The next month, I'd be answering the door to debt collectors while my parents were hid behind the corner because they were like, Freddie, you go and answer the door because they won't come in if there's a child, and those sorts of things. It was a really chaotic upbringing. All I wanted was stability. So, I was the first person in my family to go to university. My mum was my dad's third or fourth wife. I can't remember, but it was that sort of like chaotic time. My on my 18th birthday. Hopefully I could swear on this podcast, but on my 18th birthday, my dad came in and he was like, "You're a man now, son. So I've got a present for you." And I was like, "Oh, brilliant." It's like I can be honest and tell you, I'm fucking your mum's best friend. I was like, "Oh, would have preferred a PlayStation, to be honest, but there you
Yeah,
go."
makes the step.
And it was that sort of. So I was like, I want to get out, and all I wanted was stability.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I was the first person to go to university in my family. I went to uni, had a great time, and then I was like, what do normal people do? Like, they go and get a normal job. So I kind of, yeah, I blagged my way into one of the big corporates and one of the graduate schemes. Went down to the bright lights of London, had a bloody brilliant time. I was like, I get paid, I get like an expense budget. I wasn't very good at the working part of it, but I was great at the socializing, the network part. Um, but then I remember, and pretty like in the first week of my training in this job, I was kind of pulled aside by one of the sort of the senior leaders, and he was like, and again, it doesn't really work on a podcast. He did that sort of like that moving around your face, and he was like, like this, and he was like just pointing to all of me. He was like, this, if you want to be successful here, this whole thing isn't going to work. So he was basically saying, like, if you want to make a success of this career, then don't be yourself. Like,
Wow.
all companies these days are like, be authentic, be you, bring your full self to work. And you could argue that they say that on LinkedIn these days. They don't actually believe it in real life. But however it was, this was early 2000s, and they were like, yeah, if you're going to be yourself, you're not going to get on here. And so I said, okay, you're right, I'm wrong. And so I started to become the person they said I should be.
Mm-hmm.
I became this kind of diluted version of myself that was always holding something back, that didn't want to be having too much fun, ironically, unless it was in China Whites at 3 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday or something. But in work, I felt like a massive imposter. Everyone else was like different upbringing, different schools, different ways to network. I was just like, I was blown away by there was free coffee in the office, and I didn't know how to play the game. I felt like an imposter. I felt out of place. I worked hard, I played hard, but there was always this feeling that I was not really being myself. And then, as I've learned looking back, when we're not our authentic selves, it's that sort of thing where you try and keep it all in, but then stuff starts to, it's like like one of those cartoons, like if you're on a on a water bed or an air bed and it's got holes in, and you kind of like try to spread out and like cover all the holes, and you try and cover one, then water shoots out of another one, and that's why I was partying so hard and drinking so hard, because I realized that yeah, if I was fun Freddie, then my bosses would be like, "Oh, this guy's a legend," and I'd be getting the high fives and everything, and I was like, "Oh, hang on, I'm not very good at my job, but I'm quite good at drinking. And if I could be like the fun guy, the office clown, then people like me." But I didn't realize that I was being the entertainer, but I wasn't respected. I wasn't actually, admired for doing a good job. I was just like the kind of like the funny guy. Um, and so yeah, because of that, I was heavily drinking, and we find that in our jobs. Yeah, we all watch the Gary V videos, and we're like, yeah, fuck you, Monday. I'm going to rule this Monday. I'm going to quit my job. And well, I did build up the courage to quit my job. And because I'd be sat in these meetings, just like I wanted to scream. Like I literally just wanted to scream out loud. Like, I don't care. Like, I just didn't care. And that's nothing against the corporate world, because I saw so many other people around that meeting table and they loved it.
Yeah.
And they were brilliant at it and they were talented and like that, and they really cared. Like, we'd be in the pub and like at 10 o'clock at night, and they'd be doing the work chat thing. And I could see that like they were really passionate. And I was just like, I don't give a shit whether the Bob, the client, how we're going to engage him and build his trust. I was like, well, just. And then I think, just seeing my dad die like that just blew it out of the water. I was like, I'm watching my dad die, and then other people are like, "Hey, let's do this account planning." I just like, nah, I'm out. And then I have to be fair and say also it wasn't my. It's tempting to be like, "Yeah, man, screw the suits," but like I say, my attitude wasn't right either, and so I built up the courage. I left the corporate world. I felt the fear and did it anyway. I took the leap. I burnt the boats, left the job, and then for a week I sat at home and got really scared. And then a recruitment consultant phoned me up and they said, "Would you like to do the same job somewhere else for more money?" And I said, "Yes, please. That sounds brilliant." And then you tell yourself, yeah, it'll be different. It's like a relationship. It's like literally like an abusive relationship. So it'll be different this time. I've changed. They've changed. It was probably all my fault. It was all my fault. I got it wrong, but I've learned I can be a better person. Went into that job 6 months later, exactly the same, getting into trouble, drinking too much, hating I was on a commuter train, just like it wasn't the way it was supposed to go. So I built up the confidence, built up the energy, handed in the notice. This is it, guys. Same thing. Recruitment consultant phoned me up. "Do you want even more money?" "Yes, I do. I'm going to follow my dream, but I'm going to get some more money." And so I did the whole thing. That time, like literally 2 weeks in, I was like, I've got to stop this. And that's when I realized. So I'd been writing my book kind of, I should probably say for legal reasons, I was writing my book always out of office hours, obviously. So I was writing my book. I was like, well, let's just try and get some traction with this, because my book was all around thinking, and I call it Starting at Zero, and it's the playbook for making your dreams come true when everything seems fucked. And because I think we're always starting at zero, whether it's a new job, a new relationship, living in a new place, signing up for a race, it always feels like we're starting at zero. So I was like, if only there was a book that would help me when I was starting at zero as an everyday guy who is a bit sick of being literally sat in the corporate motivational talk when I'm just there watching some dude who's ex-army, who's climbed up Mount Everest. And I'm like, well, that all sounds great, mate, but how are you going to help me? Because I've got a hangover and a project deadline and a wife that's pissed off with me and kids that haven't seen me and a growing beer belly. And I loved hearing about your lovely 100 grand climb up Everest, but you're not telling me anything that's actually going to change my life. So it's like, how can I give people real, tactical, tangible advice for everyday guys and everyday women as well, to actually go and get what you want? And that's how the book came out. And once I wrote that, I was like, well, I can't go back now. I can't go back. As tempting as it still is to go back to that full-time corporate job as such, I know that I have to take my own medicine and be like, I can't, if I do that, I will live a life of regret, which is my biggest fear of ever doing that. So I have to now, rightly or wrongly, keep plowing forward and assuring people that it can be done.
My name is Samuel Main, and I truly hope that you've got value from today's video. If you have, please do hit like and subscribe down below, and I'll see you in the video tomorrow.